Hey everybody, welcome to Combat Japan. I'm your host Andres Vergara. Today we're going to be doing a preview of the upcoming RIZIN card. This will be held in Hiroshima, Japan. This is part of RIZIN's Landmark series, so this will be RIZIN Landmark 15 in Hiroshima. This is being held in the Hiroshima Green Arena, and it'll take place on July 18th, 2026. If you're in the States, that'll actually be Friday, the night before, at 12 Eastern Standard Time, so the 17th, I guess. Well, I guess it's midnight, so it'll be technically Saturday, but anyway, as I mentioned before, this is part of their Landmark series. For those of you that don't know, most of RIZIN's events are held in a ring, much like the Pride FC style from back in the day. But RIZIN does also put on events where they fight in a cage. So that's the Landmark series. So these fights will be in a cage, much like the UFC or the PFL or any Western promotion. So it does give it a little bit of a different flavor, and people kind of prepare differently for cage matches. But yeah, they are going to be fighting in a cage. I think it's a hexagon. So that'll be taking place here in Hiroshima on July 18th, 2026. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna pull up the card here, and we're gonna just preview the fights. I'll give my thoughts, opinions, maybe some picks, and we'll go from there. All right, let's pull this up real quick. Just a quick note, I will be skipping some of the prelim bouts here. I think this video will probably be long enough without covering every single fight on the card. So I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit here, but let's get started with our first match that we're going to cover. Siwoo Park versus Mori Suda. As I mentioned in my News and Roundup episode, RIZIN announced kind of an unofficial tournament for the atomweight division, given that Seika Izawa, the current champion, has vacated the belt to focus on being a mom. She's pregnant right now. She's incredible. She's 18-0, and she's fought just about everybody that there is at atomweight here. But they've announced kind of a mini tournament that's going to be fighters fighting in this card, in RIZIN 54, and I believe Super RIZIN. Kind of the winners of that, they're going to determine who gets to fight on New Year's Eve for the vacant belt that Izawa has just relinquished. So these two fighters, Siwoo Park and Mori Suda, are part of this kind of Grand Prix, even though it's not really being touted as such. But anyway, so just a quick breakdown on these two. Siwoo Park, she's from Korea. She's 13-6, coming off of a win on her last fight. She's 35 years old. Mori Suda, much younger fighter. She's 21. She's 15-7, also coming off of a win off of her last fight. Let's talk a little bit about the matchup here. So Siwoo Park, she's a good fighter. She's one of the fighters that has fought Izawa for the belt before. She ended up losing a split decision, I believe, to Izawa. It was a pretty competitive fight, actually. I think specifically in round 3. Siwoo Park kind of really turned it on, but alas, she ended up losing to the champ, Izawa. She does not have any submission wins that I can see, that I'm aware of. She is a bit of a decision merchant, so we'll kind of put that aside. Looking at Mori Suda, so she's a bit of a submission expert. I believe out of her 15 wins, 10 of them are by submission. And as I mentioned, yeah, she's 15-7. Just watching her, she's a lot more aggressive than Siwoo Park. I feel like Siwoo Park is more reactive and kind of like pretty neutral or even on the back foot, whereas Mori Suda is just a lot more active in my opinion. She also has tremendous grappling. She's beaten one of the other fighters in this Grand Prix, Noel, who is going to be fighting Kate Lotus, I believe, in RIZIN 54 next month. She beat her with an armbar. And before that, she held her in a triangle for 3 minutes or so. So she's got very good submission grappling. She's actively will pull guard, which is interesting to see. So a lot of the time with grapplers, you kind of do striking and then you end up in a weird scramble and then you start hunting for submissions. But she will just straight up pull guard because she's good from there, right? So she specializes in a lot of arm bars. In addition to Noel, she actually beat Yeji Lee from Korea, who's actually in the next bout that I'm going to talk about here, and she's also part of this unofficial Grand Prix for the belt. And Mori Suda also beat her via armbar, so she's very aggressive from the bottom, and she's just a very good submission artist. So for this fight, my opinion, I'm very much leaning Mori Suda. Not very much. I probably pretty confident that she's going to pull it off here. She's probably going to hunt for some sort of body lock and takedown and just kind of go from there. Siwoo Park, as experienced as she is, I'm just going to have to go with youth on this one. Moeri Suda is 21 years old. She's a bit of a grappling phenom, so I'm going to give it to her via submission. So that is my official pick, Moeri Suda via submission in this Atomweight Grand Prix that we're talking about here. So, all right, moving on. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this is part of the Atomweight showcase. We have Saori Oshima and Yi-Ji Lee from Korea. I mentioned Yi-Ji Lee has lost to Moeri Suda via armbar, but she's actually making her RIZIN debut. So I think they fought in Deep Jewels, which is the Deep. Deep is another MMA organization in Japan, and Deep Jewels is like their women's division. But anyway, so yeah, Yi-Ji Lee is making her RIZIN debut. She's coming off a win as well. Saori Oshima is also coming off a win. Her last loss was to Seika Izawa for the belt. She lost a decision there as well. But yeah, let me sum up Oshima here. So she's 16-7. She is a grappling expert. She has extensive judo experience. She really likes arm locks. She is very good with your typical judo throws, hip throws, body lock throws. So she is looking to take you down and break your arm, basically. And Yi-Ji Lee, she's 7-8, so under 500 record. She has fought a lot of good competition outside of RIZIN, in Deep Jewels and stuff, but she is a lot more of a decision fighter. Honestly, just given the amount of experience, the level of fighter she's faced, competing in RIZIN consistently for Saori Oshima, I'm going to have to go with Oshima to win this one as well. I'm predicting some sort of arm lock submission finish for Oshima. And then we have both Oshima and Suda move on to the next round of this Atomweight tournament. Yeah, I'm going to go with Saori Oshima to win via arm lock submission. Moving on. All right, we're moving on to a featherweight matchup here between Hiroaki Suzuki and Hyuga Miyagawa. Both of these guys have I think a 500 record. Suzuki is 6-6. Miyagawa is 7-7. A bit of an age gap here. Suzuki is coming in at 41 years old. Miyagawa is I think he's only 24 years old. Both of these guys coming off of wins. Hyuga Miyagawa is on a 3-win streak. Suzuki on a 2-win streak as well. So let's talk Suzuki for a second. So he is a bit of a brawler. So out of his 6 wins, 4 are by KO, 2 by decision. He has 0 submission wins or losses. So he's just a bit of a kickboxer out there. From what I've seen, he really mainly throws like looping round punches. So he's kind of looking for that haymaker KO win. He rarely uses straight punches. So like a 1-2 to kind of set up things. I feel like he's just, whenever he's jabbing, he's just kind of touching you. But he's just looking for that big round punch, hook, or overhand punch to kind of end the fight. Whereas Hyuga Miyagawa seems a bit more well-rounded to me. He has, some grappling ability. He doesn't have any submission wins, but I've seen him, I think in his last fight, control his opponent with a body triangle and just kind of hold him down. And he just has more offensive grappling. And as far as the striking goes, he's kind of more well-rounded, in my opinion, than Suzuki. He throws straight punches, which are, usually faster to land than like a big looping punch. So even if they're just on the feet, I feel like he's gonna probably catch Suzuki with something, throwing a 1-2 or something like that, leading to other strikes or maybe even takedowns. So Hyuga Miyagawa being 24, having youth on his side, I'm kind of leaning toward him. I'm not super confident on this one. I think it could go either way, but I am picking Hyuga Miyagawa to win. I'm probably going to go with decision on this one. All right, moving on. All right, so we have the big boys here. We have a welterweight bout at 170 pounds between Shinji Sasaki and Yota Rice Hayashi. Shinji is quite the veteran. He's actually 46 years old, and I believe he fought in RIZIN 1. So he's certainly up there in age. Hayashi's 33 years old. Not necessarily a young prospect, but definitely a lot closer to his physical prime. Hayashi is actually making his RIZIN debut. He's the Grachan welterweight champion. And let's see here. He's 12-9. He's coming off of 2 wins. Whereas we got Shinji here, who is coming off of 2 losses at 46 years old. He is primarily a grappler. he won't do much on the feet. He just keeps diving for the legs. So he'll just kind of get close, maybe, you know, throw a jab or two and then just completely go for the legs. It feels like if he's not grappling, he's not really doing anything else. He's 0-2 in RIZIN, mainly a grappler. He keeps his hands really low. So like, you know, normally you want to have some sort of a guard, you know, be up here and be able to cover and prevent shots to the head. I think when he fights, he's like down here. So it just really opens him up for strikes and just head damage there. And then just looking at Hayashi, I mean, you can definitely say that the level of opposition he's faced hasn't been world class either. I mean, he's, you know, Gratchen is a pretty small promotion, but given that Shinji is so kind of one-dimensional in the grappling side of things, and he's kind of coming off of 2 losses, and he's, you know, 46 years old, I'm gonna have to lean on Hayashi on this one as well. Confidence, you know, probably 7 out of 10. I think Hayashi will take this one. I'm predicting a finish via TKO. So that's that. Moving on. All right, so we have a featherweight match here between Shoji and Genji Umeno. We're talking about older fighters here. Shoji is actually 43, and Genji Umeno is no spring chicken either. He's actually 37, so he's getting up there as well. In terms of MMA, Shoji has a lot more experience. He's 19 and 18 in 1-0 contest, with Genji just having a 2-1 record, but that's because most of his career he spent doing kickboxing and Muay Thai. So MMA is newer to him. One thing worth noting about Shoji, he's on a 4-fight losing streak at 43. Some of his fights, he's not looking super sharp. I think his chin is a bit of a concern as well. He's been finished quite a bit lately. He's primarily a striker and doesn't really do a lot of grappling. And he's fighting a guy who's been doing nothing but striking for years in Genji Umeno. So from what I've seen, Genji, he has pretty good defensive grappling, and not just that, he actually has some offensive grappling as well. I know he kind of shot in for a guillotine in his last fight, I believe. Yep, it was a guillotine. Oh, and he also had a triangle attempt as well. So triangle choke from guard. So that's not bad for somebody that's, you know, primarily a kickboxing guy. So I also feel like he's better in Ranger. So he's better at kind of using his distance and range in the striking department as well. So given all that, and given Shoji's lack of grappling, from what I've seen, I'm going to give it to Umeno on this one as well. I'm pretty confident on this one. We're going to go Umeno TKO win as well. All right, moving on. All right, so moving on to lightweight, we have a match between Johnny Case and Tenya. So Johnny Case, the American, he's had experience in the UFC, in PFL, I believe, and in RIZIN. He's 5-4 in RIZIN. He's coming off of about a year layoff. He had a missed weight bout in May 2025, and he actually ended up winning that with a really, really nice overhand right. In addition to all that MMA experience, he actually had several bouts as a pro boxer as well. So he just has a ton of experience, professional fighting experience as well. He has trained with the former RIZIN lightweight champion Satoshi D'Souza after fighting him for the title. And he's just an incredible grappler, Satoshi. He also trains at Extreme Couture with Eric Nixick and those guys, so he is the real deal. As far as his opponent, Tenya, he has a lot less experience. He's 5-3. He also missed weight on his last bout in RIZIN Landmark 13, and it's worth mentioning, he missed by quite a bit. I think he was 9 pounds over, or like 3 kilos or something like that. He ended up losing that fight. Yeah, this guy, he's 5-3. I think he's a well-rounded fighter. He's just not as experienced or as well-rounded as somebody like Johnny Case, who's been training with elite level pro fighters, you know, at Extreme Couture, training with Satoshi D'Souza, you know, focusing on his grappling, and even, you know, just being a pro boxer. I just think Johnny Case is a better striker and probably a better overall fighter in just any dimension you can think of. So I'm very, very confident Johnny Case is going to take this one. So I am picking him to win, probably via KO. Johnny Case, he's had 19 KOs. Yep. Johnny Case has had 19 KOs in his career. So I think this is a bit of a mismatch here, and he'll probably get his 20th. So moving on. All right, so we're back at bantamweight here, 135-pound match between Shinobu Ota and Irzbek Tilinov. So Shinobu Ota is a Olympic silver medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling for representing Japan. He is 8-5 in MMA, 32 years old. He trains at the Black Belt Japan. He's 7-5 in RIZIN. He's had losses. He's lost to Yuki Motoya twice. He's lost to the champion Danny Sabatello and Shoko Sato as well. It's interesting. So usually with grapplers, I mean, I would expect them to have more submission wins, but he's actually had a more KO, TKO type of wins, which actually makes sense for a wrestler. And then you have his opponent here, Irzbek Telenov. He is 7-1. He's on a 5-hit. He's on a 5. He is 7-1. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He's 23 years old, and he trains in the same team as the RIZIN featherweight champion Razavali Shadulayev, who is a complete phenom. Irzbek has a lot of the same qualities as Shadulayev. He's got nasty ground and pound. He also has experience with grounded knees. So a lot of the promotions he's fought for, I was watching some of his fights. They do allow grounded knees, much like RIZIN, which I know a lot of the fighters that come from America and go over to RIZIN and experience that rule set, they're kind of have to get used to it. But Irzbek Tilanov has been doing that as well. If he's anything like Shadulayev, I think he's just gonna demolish Ota here. 4 out of his 7 wins come from KO or TKO. He's just gonna aggressively come at you and just break you down. And just worth mentioning, this is his RIZIN debut, so he's never fought it within RIZIN. But given that his training partner is Shadulayev, I'm sure he's kind of got everything he needs in terms of mentorship to have a successful debut here. So yeah, exciting prospect. We'll see how he fares, but I'm definitely picking Tilanov to win this one. I'm gonna go TKO. TKO win for Irzbek Tilanov. All right, so speaking of RIZIN debuts, now we're moving to 125 pounds between Tatsuki Shinotsuka and Jae-Hoon Lee. And it is Jae-Hoon Lee's RIZIN debut. He is 3-1 with 2 KO wins and 1 decision win. He will be facing Tatsuki Shinotsuka, who is 1-1 in MMA, but he has a lot of experience as a kickboxer prior to kind of making that transition. Shinotsuka is 28 years old, and Lee will be 23 at the time of the fight. Shinotsuka is 1-1, as I mentioned, so he's got 1 KO win and 1 KO loss. As far as his loss, I think he just got crucifix and it was a TKO loss. He just didn't know how to get out of there. Jae-Hoon Lee doesn't have any submission wins on his record, but he does seem to be pretty well-rounded from what I've seen, at least on YouTube. This one's a bit of a toss-up to me. I mean, they both have less than 5 fights. It could go either way, but not confident. But I am picking Jae-Hoon Lee to win this one as well, just given that he's been training MMA. And he seems to be pretty well-rounded from what I've seen. Maybe he can rely on some grappling to kind of shut down Shinotsuka's striking. So I'm going with Jae-Hoon Lee. Let's call this one a decision win. Okay, next. All right, so we're sticking here at 125. And we have a match between Hiroya and Ersin Yamamoto. Ersin being the nephew of the legendary Kid Yamamoto, who I think we last saw him last year in that flyweight tournament, where he had the reserve bout against Yuki Ito, I believe, and he ended up defeating Ito via decision. That being the second time he defeated Yuki Ito in his career. Ersin Yamamoto is 6-8 as a pro, and then Hiroya is 11-15 and 1 no contest. So, and they're both about the same age. Hiroya is 28, Ersin is 29 years old. Let's talk Hiroya real quick. So Hiroya's fought some big names. He has losses to Yuki Motoya, Shinryu, who's the current flyweight champion, Yuki Ito as well, who I just mentioned. He's a pretty well-rounded guy. He trains at Japan Top Team. From what I've seen, I think he's a little bit too maybe defensive. I feel like he doesn't really push the pace. He kind of just waits for you to do something and kind of react to that. Out of his wins, he mostly has decisions and KO wins. I think 4 apiece. But if you look at his decision outcomes, I think, yeah, he has 13 decision losses. So out of the 15 losses he has on his record, 13 of them have been decision, which, I think maybe ties back to what I was saying, that he's a little too kind of defensive in there, right? So like if no one finishes anybody and one guy was pushing the pace and the other guy was just kind of reacting, I feel like maybe that's what's happening with Hiroya throughout his career. Whereas Ersin, he's primarily a grappler, but he's very aggressive. So I think he'll just kind of keep pushing forward. He'll keep pushing forward and diving for the legs or getting some sort of body lock so he can kind of take you to the ground and pound you from there. So Ersin doesn't really have a lot of submission wins. I think he mostly relies on ground and pound and just kind of grinding you to a decision win. Yeah, so I feel like in this one, if it goes to decision, 100% Ursin Yamamoto will take it. And if it doesn't, then it's probably a finish by Hiroya. Perhaps he catches him with a counter or something like that. But given what I've seen, I'm going to go with Ursin Yamamoto to win this via decision. I'm not super confident in this pick. I feel like it could go either way. But assuming it goes the distance, I'm going to go with Ursin Yamamoto, kind of controlling and doing some ground and pound work to a decision win against Hiroya. All right. All right, so moving on to a featherweight match here between Karshiga Daubek and Kyohei Hagiwara from Japan. So Daubek, he's 18-3. He'll be 32 years old. We have Kyohei Hagiwara at 9-12, and he'll be 30 years old. Let's talk Daubek for a second. So he is a very experienced striker. He is the Kazakh national boxing champion. On top of that, he does train grappling. We saw in his last fight against Yuta Kubo him implement some of that grappling and getting takedowns so he can kind of nullify the striking from his opponent. Even though he's a very competent striker himself, he does only have one submission win, but I feel like he's really focused on grappling on top of his striking acumen. So I mentioned he's 18-3. Out of those 18 wins, 14 of them are by knockout, so he's a hell of a striker there. Kyohei Hagiwara, he's 9-12. He's not a great record by any means, but he has fought a lot of big names. So he has losses to Kyoma Akimoto, Kleber Koike, Mikuru Asakura, right? He is a action fighter. Hagiwara is going to bring it. He's a good kickboxer. He really has a deficiency in grappling. So I think he has 7 losses to via submission, and that's because he's a brawler, right? He's going out there to kind of put on a show. He's not necessarily focused too much on grappling exchanges or anything like that, but that does create a big liability in his fighting style. In terms of striking, I think Daubek is just as accomplished. So I think even if they keep it on the feet, I would probably favor Daubek to win this one. But I think I think Daubek will probably implement a lot of the grappling that we saw in his fight against Yuta Kubo to kind of nullify some of the striking that's coming from Hagiwara. And we know Hagiwara's grappling isn't really up to par. So who knows? We might get a Daubek submission here or some sort of ground and pound. I think that's probably more likely. They're probably going to start on the feet. Hagiwara is better at range, right? So he's got long kicks. He's a good kickboxer. Whereas Daubek has that more of a boxing style. So he wants to be up, real close and just kind of get on the inside. So I think maybe they'll start on the feet and then we'll quickly see a Daubek takedown, leading probably to a ground and pound finish. Or if not, Daubek should just try a submission, right? I mean, we know that Hagiwara is very susceptible to getting submitted. He should either go for a rear naked choke or an armbar, which I think Hagiwara has fallen prey to several times. So I'm going to pick Daubek to win this one. Pretty confident he'll take it, but I do think this will be a fun fight. It'll be action-packed for sure. All right, our main event. We have the RIZIN Bantamweight Championship on the line with our champion Danny Sabatello fighting against Jinnosuke Kashimura. Danny Sabatello is 18-4. He's coming off of a 4-fight win streak in RIZIN. He trains at American Top Team with head coach Mike Brown. He has a ton of experience in MMA. He has Bellator experience. He has a PFL fight, I think, that ended up in a draw. And he's had a ton of RIZIN experience as well. So this will be his second defense against Jinnosuke Kashimura, who is also coming off of a 4-fight win streak. He is 12-5 overall. He'll be 24 years old. He's actually, I believe, the current interim bantamweight champion in Deep, which happened to be his last win before this fight. So just taking a look at this matchup real quick, Danny Sabatello, he is a very dominant wrestler. So a lot of his style is just taking you down and just making you work from there, right? So he'll punish you. He'll focus on a lot of ground and pound. In terms of submissions, he does favor the head and arm triangle and rear naked choke. We saw both of those in his last fight against Joji Goto. He wasn't able to finish them, but he will try 4 submissions on top of just kind of peppering you with strikes here and there from the ground. And he's just a very dominant grappler. Jinnosuke, on the other hand, is a good grappler as well, but he's not a wrestling style grappler like Danny. He's a lot more of a submission grappler. So, think straight, jiu-jitsu, but looking for submissions much more so than Danny, because Kashimura has 10 submission wins. So 10 out of his 12 wins are all by submission finish. So In terms of Kashimura's wrestling, I think there's a lot to be desired there. So from what I've seen, he kind of just dives for the legs without really setting that up as nicely as somebody like Danny Sabatello would. So he kind of will just, throw a jab and from like 6 feet away will try to like get a double leg takedown. And anybody with any decent wrestling will just sprawl on that and end up in front turtle, which, can lead to chokes or back takes from there. I think somebody as good at wrestling as Danny Sabatello is probably not going to be taken down at all by Kashimura's style. But once on the ground, he's very good at hunting for submissions, right? So he'll try just about everything once he's down there. I think kind of the crux of this is that somebody like Danny Sabatello training at American Top Team, having that team around you, having that coach, having that world class coaching as well. He's seen it all, right? So he's in there every day. He's doing jiu-jitsu. He's training, and I don't think there's anything Kashimura can throw at him on the ground in terms of submissions that Danny hasn't seen or doesn't know how to get out of. And given that Danny is such a good wrestler, he's probably going to dictate where the fight takes place. Even if he gets swept or something, I think he could scramble and get out of that, stand up, and take Kashimura down again. And one of the things with this wrestling heavy style is that a lot of the times it leads to kind of just decision wins. So out of Danny Sabatello's 18 wins, half of them have been by decision, which isn't as exciting as finishing every single fight, but you still get to see the display of a just dominant wrestling. And he is actively trying to finish, right? It's not like he's just lying there like Hamza did to DDP. He's trying to throw ground and pound, and I know he likes to choke people, whether it's via arm triangle or rear naked choke. Unfortunately for Kashimura, I just think he's a little bit too one-dimensional to really pose a threat to Danny Sabatello in this fight. So I am picking Danny Sabatello to win this by decision. This will be, I think he'll just grind him out. Kashimura will be defensively sound and probably avoid getting submitted, given that he's so good at submissions himself. And he'll probably just take a lot of punishment and damage, and we'll see a dominant win from Danny Sabatello here. And in terms of confidence on this one, I'm pretty confident. I'm probably like 90% sure that Danny's just going to steamroll him. And he'll continue his reign after getting a second title defense. All right, we're going to switch back here. So that wraps up my preview of the RIZIN Landmark 15 event, which will happen in Hiroshima, Japan, this Saturday, July 18th, 2026. Please be sure to check this out on RIZIN.tv. I will also be doing a debrief video once this event happens, so I can kind of debrief and go over the results with you guys. But this is exciting stuff, man. I feel like ever since RIZIN started doing a show every month, I've been able to kind of keep tabs on these guys a lot closer, and I feel like they're doing a really great job of filling out these cards. So I'm very excited to watch. I hope you watch as well, and we can kind of talk about it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this useful and that you're excited about what's going to happen in Hiroshima this weekend in RIZIN Landmark 15. I think it'll be a hell of a card. I always like watching these shows. They're just so fun. Highly recommend you guys watch this event and keep up with RIZIN, because they don't have events every single weekend like the UFC does, but they do have them often enough so that you can kind of keep up with everybody and see what's going on in the Japanese MMA scene. So real fun stuff. Thank you so much again. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.